Okay, this is going to be the AP Sculpin. Shown it several times on social media, Instagram and Facebook, on the SoCal Facebook's site, but it's a good one. Been fishing this one a lot for basically my little Sculpin pattern for catching calicos, and it works really, really well. Has a nice bright head on it. Pretty much it is all synthetic. So there's some SF, some Sculpt, some EP brush, all that's in this, and it makes it for a really nice fly. Lots of movement. That back tail, when it's wet, really nice. Gets a nice color. What I like about it is the bottom end, the back end of this fly has a nice orange to it, so you get that two-tone, very reminiscent of like a swim bait. So it's like a nice little swim bait, stick bait. Definitely works. Definitely gets fish. Nice to paint those heads on this thing with the that Protect paint. So enough talk. Let's go tying, and let me do this for you guys. So my hook of choice for this is going to be the Gamakatsu SP11. This is going to be the three long and 3 heavy. So it's a great hook for this fly, basically for a lot of my calico patterns. I'm going to go ahead and just start off with some mono thread here, and then we'll get the fly going. So with mono thread, it's nice to put a little bit of a nice little shot of some Zap-A-Gap on that shank. So we're going to start this up real quick. And you might have seen there's some weight on this, and what I've done for the weight is I'm using a tungsten scud back. You know, they use a lot of these for making like a check nymph. I can show you the little pack by Hairline. It's right here, and all that rib tungsten does, it's going to basically keep it so that this fly, when it basically comes through the water, and it goes ahead and it hits, they say, some kelp or rock, it writes itself up nice and tight, really easy. So I like that because it keeps that weed guard right on top. It keeps that hook point nice and neat. It also keeps a little more of a natural action. I see a lot of guys with their flies, and they have this fluttering effect of their pattern in the water, and I really, you know, the pattern will be kind of lopsided, and then it'll kind of go the other side, and it looks like a dead bait or something. I don't know what they're trying to do, but I like it so that when this thing comes to the water, it hits something, it writes itself right back up, because I want it so that hook point is up, gets into the kelp, and it also looks like more like a natural darting, fleeing bait fish, like a nice Sculpin does. So there you go. So that's what I like to do. Everybody's different. I'm gonna start my thread right around the hook point, and I'm gonna start off with some SF, and this is in sort of like a blood. It's like a little red orange. You know, I normally use the redfish color. In this case, I ran out of redfish, so I'm going to use this one. It's also very good. And all I do here is I take a nice little hank of it. This is the best way to work with this material, is just take a nice hank of material off the side, fold it in half so you have their kind of ends to end like this, and with this nice little tapered back end of it, and that's what you want. Okay, so you take this little tapered piece. I do about twice the length of the shank there. It's about there. So that's puts it about right where I want it, about there. Go ahead and just put it right on top. I'll come back right to that scud back eye right there, or the scud back tungsten. Take that material right off, clean it up a little bit, and let's go ahead and bring out my peacock. So you get a nice little tail effect. Just flip her over now. Now I'm going to go with my peacock. This is SF, and the color is peacock. It has a little bit of UV. Really, really nice. Same thing. Go to the hank material. Just take a nice chunk of it off. So right off the hank, just like that. Pull it off. Then what you do is like I said, you get it. You fold it, with a nice tapered look right there. All I'm going to do now for this part, I'm going to go ahead and match back up to where I want here. This is the peacock, which is perfect there. right up to the tungsten. See that? So that's basically the same length as the redfish. Gonna cut that off. Come back right here and lay it down right on the top of the shank and end up where I want it to go. So there you go. Now you have two of these materials on top. What I'll do is just flare this around. You can take it out of the vise really quick. Get it nice and neat. So you can see there I have now my material, my orange on the bottom, green on top. It's looking money. I like that. Put it right back in this trusty HMH. There you go. Now, next bit is to get in my EP brush. This is EP brush. This is the one with the craft fur in sort of an olive, olive green one. Forgot the exact name of this one, but it's basically EP brush, olive, but it's the craft fur. So that's kind of the color. Matches really, really nice with this fly, and works out really, really good. So what I'm gonna do here is on top, put it right here. I'm gonna take it right back to my starting point, which is, like I said, I keep it consistent, so I'm going right back to the barb on this hook. Take your thread now. You can advance that a little bit forward, and I'm going to palmer this. And what I like about this material here for this fly, it adds a little bit of body and bulk to the fly, which is really good. And it also adds some nice little movement with all this craft fur. Only right now I'm just kind of palmering it, but I'm kind of pushing it all the way back to make sure it kind of all goes to one side, just like that. And I'll brush that right now with my Velcro brush. So anyways, just kind of coming right through it, palmering it through, nothing special here, pretty easy. I'll go about halfway up there. Just like that. Okay. So you have a little orange now on the top. Orange. You have orange on the here, but you have that olive. Looks really good. So I'm just going to go ahead and tie off the material. Just like this. Kind of slip a little bit, but it's pretty good. There you go. So you go. That's on top. I'm going to take in my little micro cutters, because that is metal wire. Don't use your scissors for that. And go ahead and kind of create my starting point here. Just like that. That's where I'm going to start building out my fly with some sculpt. But before I do that, I'm going to bring in my handy dandy Velcro brush. I'm going to brush this all out. Just like this. And you can see how this all kind of flares out, and how much really all that movement of that that craft fur makes it really, really nice. So the bottom end of this here, so you can see how I'm gonna go ahead and just flare that all out. What I want is, I want that orange to show up. I want to have an orange bottom, and I want to have the green olive on top. So what I'm gonna do is gonna flare it out just like that. And then I'm going to get in some CCG. This is in the hydro. I keep saying this. You can go ahead and get some Loon Flow. Should be the same, I hope. Go ahead and just put it down the center like that. What that's going to do is it's just going to keep it so it's separate and it's flared out. Go ahead and hit that real quick. And what I've done is that I've now separated the bottom from the top. You can see that you have all these nice materials on the top, all that green's on top. And you now have that open on the bottom. And what you do now is you're just going to fill in this fly. So to fill in the fly, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in some sculpt fibers, and that sculpt is how I'll build out the head to give this fly some push and some body and some dimension to make it just that that pattern that gives that more of that sculpin look. So what I have some orange. This is some green peacock sculpt fiber. You could also use some green EP fiber if you don't have the sculpt. And this is just some orange kind of sunburst sculpt fiber as well. Like I said, I use a lot of EP fibers as well, but I've kind of migrated now to the sculpt because it does have a little bit of flash, has some UV, and the stuff is just really, really cool. So same thing that I just did with my SF. All I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull off a small little section of it, little hank of it, just like that. Okay, I'm going to pull it out of the side, so I get a little section like this. And with this, what I do is I want to fold it over, cut it to the center, and you end up with this nice section of material. This is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to build this body. So let me start building this body, and then we'll kind of get back to the talking a little bit. So let me build the body real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this in half. So I cut this in half. Here is my Sculpin head. This Sculpin head is dipped in Protect paint, so it has a nice Protect flame orange on it. What I do is this is a size 1 hook, okay? This is a size 1, I forgot to mention that. The size 2 fits this Sculpin head really, really nice. The problem with the size 1 is the eye of the hook doesn't fit that very, very easily. So what I do is I drill out a little bit here on this Sculpin head. By doing that, I get a thicker shank hook. I get a beefier hook on that size 1, which to me means a lot for fishing for those calicos. I can do this with a size 2, nice and easy, but with the size 1, I definitely have a better pattern. So do now is I'm just gonna go ahead and just check it. See how it's all looking, and it's looking pretty good. So I still have room for my weed guard and everything else. So looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and just add a few more layers of material here. Good. So now I've kind of filled in my fly. It's where I want it to be. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this fly out of the vise. I'm going to trim it down, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just trim it, take it out. Just like this. And you can see it's pretty big, pretty bulky. Let me go ahead and trim this down and we'll go from there. Let me get this fly on. Let's finish this fly up right back here where I ended up. Okay. This is my thread back on, and let's finish this thing up. So here we go. There's my my fly. It's in the vise. Next step, we're gonna go ahead and add in. So you know the Sculpin, they have just really pronounced pectorals here. You can see here, you know, they like the big flare on the side. In order to do that, all I'm going to do is I'm taking some crinkle flash, which is this one here. I'm taking a good chunk of it, so it's a nice healthy amount. So that's a lot of fibers there. I don't know, it's probably at least a good probably maybe 10 to 15 of these crinkle flash. I'm going to go ahead and just double. Basically, a good way to kind of manage this is just to, you know, add some moisture to it. You can add some water or whatever it is. I'm basically going to lick it. So you can see now is that's all nice and neat. Add a little moisture to it. Definitely more manageable. I'm going to cut it in half. Just like that. Because now it's cut in half. Go ahead and add it to the side of the fly. Fold it back over. Like that. Okay. One side. So you can see it add a nice little flash to it. Same for the other side. There it is. Same thing, moisture. One thing you're doing by kind of adding in that flash, everything like this on the sides, you're bulking out the front of the fly. Okay, you see that how now this fly has a little more flare to it. It's also gonna give this Sculpin head something to stabilize itself on, and that'll keep it from rotating back and forth. You see how I'm building out a little bit of a platform for that Sculpin head. So the next step to do is just add in some rubber legs. And these are just some silicone rubber legs, Cascade Crest. These are just the barred black on olive, good stuff. Go ahead and add 2 on each side. I like to keep these long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie them in just like this. Again, working on building a little bit of that platform there for that fly, or for that Sculpin head. Same thing. Right here on top. Perfect. So again, now I have a nice flat area on that fly. You can see I have nice legs going off the sides, and I'll trim it down a little bit. No problem. And then now what I'm going to do is going to add in my Sculpin helmet. That comes right in, just like that. So that's looking pretty good. So if I left it like that, you can see how there's a bit of an empty gap here in the front. So in order to alleviate all of that little gap there, what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and add in a small little section of, just like that, a little bit more of the sculpt in the peacock. Go ahead and add that right on top, just right here. So now when I add in my sculpt fiber, I'm going to fold all that back, and I'll alleviate all that kind of gap I had in that fly. So that's the best way of doing it. I just add in some Zappa Gap right here on top. Nice healthy amount. Cover that all up, make it look good. Then I'm going to go ahead and just push in this. This is that Sculpin head. Get a nice good push on it. So that's pretty good. See that? And I still have that nice front gap there for my my weed guard. So it's looking pretty good. Definitely give it a nice push, and it's looking pretty good. Obviously, the thread on the bottom, you can take that out. You see how the bottom end of your fly looks really good. Looks perfect. What I'll do then on the top, I'll make sure this gets flared out, just like that. And then here, just come in. There you go. I think it looks perfect. I mean, that looks like a very fishy fly. So you can kind of give a nice little look to it, and that is good. So that's really good. I think that's perfect. Next thing you can do, I mean, this is the fly. I mean, this is the fly. Next thing you do is just add in a little weed guard on this thing, and you will have the fly of all flies. What I would like to do too is you can go ahead and add in your eyes to this, and by add, you know, they sell the little eyes for your fly, and you're good to go. So you know what, I'm not gonna necessarily do that right here on this video. I don't think it's really necessary. I think you guys get the overall picture. You know, the weed guard is how I always do the weed guards. It's just the typical way. I have a video on how to do that. So I don't need to put more time in on the fly for that. Hope you guys liked it. Synthetic, all synthetic Sculpin here. I mean, look at the back end of that thing. It looks pretty darn good. And then you look at the fly. I'll pull out the vise. You can see this thing has nice flare to it. That olive, everything's looking really good. Then you do the flip. You get all of that orange and all of that fly, all of that greatness. And look at the back end of it, nice and tapered for you. All really easy. So hopefully you guys liked it. Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully you know, this pattern will be some of you guys will use. I'm telling you, this pattern, and don't be afraid to mix it up. I use this pattern in, you know, the black chartreuse. I use it in black, blue, and all kinds of different colors, because, you know, the SF comes in tons of colors. You know, and I'll post some of those colors as I run through my patterns. I'll show some ones that I do. Just a killer fly. I mean, it swims really good. What I like to do is just make a cast into the kelp, or straight into the boiler rocks. Strip it, pause it, and usually they'll just come and annihilate it. Hopefully you guys liked it. It's a good pattern. You know it. And any questions, let me know. Yeah, follow me on Instagram, SoCalFlytying, and also on Facebook, SoCalFlytying. Thanks for watching. Bye.